9:36 now here on Delaware. I'm Peter MacArthur. Thursday, it is March 25th. You know, just as my colleague Rick Jensen has been trying to get you hooked up with unemployment issues you've been having and has helped untold numbers of people. I'm not even sure if you can quantify it, but really just lending a hand where it's needed. We've been trying to do something similar here on Delaware and helping you find your next job. Talking frequently with Chris Burkhart, Placer Staffing in Newark. And Chris is here this morning. Hey, Chris, good morning.
Good morning, Peter. How are you today?
I'm doing well. Kind of a gray morning, but I'll tell you this. In terms of the first-time unemployment benefit filings, 684,000 first-time jobless claims. That's the lowest number we've seen in a long time, Chris.
Peter, I've been doing this with you for a lot of Thursdays, and I think today's the day we're going to remember. I can confidently say that this logjam of sort of a building economy, it's healing. I dare say, I'll say it first, the job market is getting strong. The unemployment numbers you mentioned finally dipped below the all-time high that had nothing to do with the pre-pandemic. I think it was the early 1980s. But here's the cool thing. This starts with less people losing their jobs. Mm-hmm. I think that can't get lost. As business confidence grows, the stops and starts of business closures are kind of waning. You see less layoffs. So I think that's in combination with a bit more spending, stimulus for people, stimulus for business, businesses opening up, I think jobs are going to come back. In fact, the really great thing is 2 million less people were on unemployment when you look at the two programs. There's one for freelance and there's one for workers.
Chris, I know more than a few people that are in this following boat that I'll describe for you. Unemployed, looking to get back into the workforce, yet they have now this gap of unemployment on their resume. Or maybe they left the workforce to care for a sick child or a sick family member. How do you go about explaining that to a prospective employer?
Peter, we've been having this discussion internally, and you're right. Folks are asking this question because they've now got this sort of opportunity to get back to work. And it's a very unusual gap that people aren't used to explaining formally or even in conversations when they start to interview. So we've kind of pulled together 4 or 5 points that I think are very actionable for the listener. The first is be honest. The world has changed. It is changing, and you should not feel shy to say that you took time to care for your kids or a loved one and show that you're ready to take the next step. Now, it's also okay to put on your resume that you're out of work due to the pandemic. There's a high degree of compassion about that. And, you know, a lot of times when you're applying for work, people still do kind of what a cover letter, which is really just explaining why you're uniquely qualified for the job that you're applying for. But it makes sense to be a bit transparent in that cover letter. Now, something that almost sounds a little funny or a little cute that we really think is important, a lot of folks want to almost put a job where they say domestic caregiver or mom or dad, and I don't think that always plays well with everyone. So we don't recommend putting, you know, your very important unpaid job on your resume as a paid job. It's better to explain your gap from working in a paid role. Another really key thing, just one more thing, is with each job on your resume, kind of put one action line that explains your reason for moving. Perhaps you were promoted or recruited away, or in this case, out of work due to a pandemic.
Good stuff. Chris, for people that lose their jobs, a lot of them, the first move they make is to run to Indeed or Monster or Glassdoor, jumping online to see what jobs are out there. Problem there is roughly, 8 out of 10 or so aren't posted online, and it comes down to networking. And I'd be interested to get a few tips from you on virtual networking, how to go about that today.
And that's a very frustrating thing for folks. Folks don't like to network when it's not a pandemic. So you put it online, you talk about a little bit of Zoom fatigue, and it gets exhausting for people to even think about this. But just a couple of things for people to think about. A lot of folks are into social media, but there are groups on Facebook, there are groups on LinkedIn for just about every career. There's probably one for radio DJs, quite frankly. but manufacturing or recruiting or accounting, and it's very easy to join them. And then there's a whole bunch of commonality where you can post comments and build connections. And I hear from my team that this is like the number one thing and the easiest thing for people to do. A second that's a very compassionate group is your alumni groups for your college or your high school. They're always a bit more responsive, and they're really helpful to help you jumpstart your job search. The other is those that are responsible in businesses for hiring, your human resources professionals. They're a really great person to reach out to because they're very willing to speak to candidates and help you get started and kind of point you in the right direction to the right resources.
Chris, did I read on LinkedIn that you have some kind of an event upcoming?
Yes.
You want to talk about that for a minute? Why don't we?
I do, except you'd think I would come prepared with the date. I'm going to have to look that up as we talk. Maybe you have it for me, but yes, in the spirit of what you've been talking about, that a lot of folks are now in a position that they've wanted to work and they're able to kind of get back to work. We're going to have a couple of job fairs. So we've got some coming up. And of course I don't have it handy. Shame on me.
I'll track it down.
I appreciate that, sir. But yes, we've been wanting to do some more traditional job fairs where we're going to arrange for people to meet outside as the spring weather comes about. And we have them downstate in Milford, and we're also planning one up in Newark. But shame on the president for not knowing his business.
Yeah, listen, you got to delegate these things, right?
Well, yeah. But
I will.
Got to be honest. Got to be honest when you don't know.
Yeah, that's true too. I'll dig those up during the break and let folks know on the other side here, Chris. No big deal on that. But thank you as always, and it's nice to talk about some good jobs news today, huh?
I agree with you, and let's get some spring weather, and thanks for the announcement on the upcoming job fairs. Much appreciated.
You bet, sir. All right, Chris Burkhardt, Placer Staffing in Newark, myplacers.com if you want to see more about what Chris and his firm are all about. So, yeah, I will track down those dates and some more specs for you coming up here on WDEL.